The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Kang Dae-ho walked through them slowly, his black diplomatic uniform crisp and formal. Behind him, the sound of his footsteps echoed in the enormous space. The chamber was built to make visitors feel small and unimportant. It worked on most species. Dae-ho had been coming to these meetings for 3 months now. 3 long months of listening to demands, insults, and threats. Today felt different, though. The air itself seemed heavy with tension. He took his seat at the human delegation table. It was positioned lower than all the others, another way to show that humans were considered less important. Around him, 12 different alien species sat, in their elevated positions. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living crystal. A few appeared to be floating clouds of gas held together by technology he didn't understand. The largest table belonged to the Vorthan Empire. Their ambassador, a creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and a tiger, stared down at Dae-ho with golden eyes. Next to them sat the Zephyrian delegation. They were blue-skinned humanoids who considered themselves the most beautiful species in the galaxy. Their leader kept checking her reflection in a small mirror. At the center of the chamber, Council, Speaker Veltar the Wise floated in a containment field. He was ancient, even by his species' standards. His body was mostly machine now, with only parts of his original organic form still visible. When he spoke, his voice came through translators that made it sound cold and mechanical. The human delegation will now hear the final terms, Veltar announced. His words echoed through the chamber. These conditions are the result of careful consideration by all member species of the Galactic Council. Dae-ho pulled out a small recording device and placed it on his table. He had learned to document everything in these meetings. The other species often changed their stories later. The Zephyrian ambassador stood first. Her name was something that human tongues couldn't pronounce, so she went by Lady Azure. The Zephyrian collective demands ownership of 70% of Earth's ocean systems. Your planet has far too much water for such a primitive species. We will make better use of it. Murmurs of agreement came from several other delegations. Dae-ho wrote notes but said nothing. Next came the representative of the crystalline hive. It looked like a walking diamond the size of a small building. When it spoke, its voice sounded like breaking glass. The hive requires 15 human colony worlds as buffer zones. Your expansion threatens our mining operations. These worlds will be cleared of human presence within 1 solar cycle. More. Nods around the chamber. Dae-ho continued writing. The Vorthan ambassador rose to his full height of 3 meters. The Empire demands access to human genetic material. Your species shows interesting adaptability. We require samples from 1 million of your population annually for our archives. This time, Dae-ho looked up. His face remained calm, but something flickered in his dark eyes. Samples? Living subjects, naturally, the Vorthan continued. They will be well cared for in our research facilities. Most will survive the procedures. Several alien species made sounds that their translators turned into laughter. They found human shock amusing. Other demands followed. The hegemony wanted human ships to carry their cargo for free. The Trade Syndicate demanded exclusive mining rights to asteroid belts in human space. The Neural Collective wanted to study human brains by removing them from living subjects. Each demand was worse than the last. Each one treated humans like they were barely intelligent animals. Dae-ho listened to all of it, taking careful notes. Finally, Veltar spoke again. These are our final terms. The human delegation will surrender 70% of their military fleet to Council oversight. Human expansion beyond your current borders is forbidden. All human colonies established in the last 50 years will be evacuated. Your species will submit to genetic harvesting quotas as outlined by the Vorthan Empire. You will provide free labor and transportation to all council members as needed. The chamber fell silent. Every alien eye was focused on the single human sitting below them. Veltar continued. These terms are non-negotiable. Your species has been tolerated in this galaxy only because of council mercy. That mercy has limits. Accept these conditions or face the consequences. Deho closed his notebook slowly. He put his pen away with careful precision. Then he stood up, gathering his papers into a neat stack. Then we have nothing further to discuss, he said quietly. The translator systems struggled with his tone. There was something in his voice that didn't translate well. It wasn't anger or fear. It was something else entirely. The human delegation withdraws from these proceedings, Deho announced. He turned and began walking toward the exit. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. You cannot simply leave, Lady Azure called out. This is not how diplomatic negotiations work. Deho didn't stop walking. The Vorthan ambassador roared something in his native language. The translator turned it into words dripping with contempt. Where will you go, primitive? You are surrounded by civilizations far superior to your own. You have no choice but to accept our generosity. Deho reached the chamber doors. They were massive things, designed to make anyone leaving feel like they were being expelled. He paused with his hand on the control panel. We're going home, he said without turning around. To prepare. Prepare for what? Veltar demanded. For the first time since entering the chamber, Deho smiled. None of the aliens could see his face, but somehow they all felt a chill run through. Their various forms of nervous systems. You'll find out, he said simply. The doors opened and he walked through them. They sealed behind him with a soft sound that somehow felt final. In the chamber, the alien delegates looked at each other in confusion. Then the chittering and buzzing started. Sounds of amusement and satisfaction filled the air. The humans have finally been broken, Lady Azure announced. They know they cannot resist our combined might. Indeed, agreed the Vorthan. Their primitive psychology could not handle the reality of their situation. They will return within days, begging to accept our terms. Veltar floated in his containment field, ancient and supposedly wise. The human problem has been solved. They will learn to accept their place in the natural order. The delegates began making plans for dividing up human territory and resources. They discussed which species would take which human colonies. They argued over who would get the best mining rights. None of them noticed that their communication systems had been recording everything. None of them realized that every word they had spoken was already being transmitted across human space. And none of them understood what they had just done. In their arrogance, they had made the mistake that would doom them all. They had assumed that a peaceful offer meant a weak enemy. They had mistaken human diplomacy for human limitations. The galaxy was about to learn the difference. 3 weeks had passed since Ambassador Kang Deho walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. The news had spread across human space like wildfire. Every colony, every station, every ship had received the same message. The talks had failed. War was coming. Dr. Park Ji-woo stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching screens that showed information no alien species had ever seen. The room was deep underground, protected by layers of rock and advanced shielding. Around him, dozens of technicians worked at control panels that hummed with quiet energy. "Status report," Park said to the woman beside him. Commander Lee Soo-jin pulled up a holographic display that filled the air between them. Red dots marked alien fleets moving through space. Blue dots showed human positions. There were far more red dots than blue ones. "The Vorthans are mobilizing their third fleet," Soo-jin reported. 3 battle groups headed straight for Earth. The crystalline hive is preparing bombardment swarms in 7 sectors. The Zephyrians are moving their ocean-class vessels toward our water worlds. Park nodded slowly. He was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes. For 50 years he had helped maintain humanity's greatest secret. Now that secret was about to be revealed. "They still think we're the same species they first met," he said quietly. "They have no idea what humans become when we stop pretending to be peaceful." Another man approached them. Admiral Kim Tae-sung was tall and broad-shouldered, with scars on his hands from his younger days as a ship engineer. He carried a data pad that glowed with classified information. "Operation Sleeping Dragon is ready," Kim announced. "All hidden facilities are reporting green status. The Outer Rim shipyards have completed their final production runs." Soo-jin brought up new displays. They showed star systems that appeared empty on all alien maps. But the human sensors revealed massive construction sites hidden in asteroid fields and gas-giant atmospheres, shipyards that had been building in secret for decades. "How many ships?" Park asked. "More than the Council thinks we have in total," Kim replied with a grin. "The Ghost Fleet alone has over 2,000 vessels, all of them using technology the aliens have never seen." In another part of the base, Choi Min-ho was giving his own briefing to a group of senior officers. Min-ho was young for his position as chief military engineer, but his mind worked in ways that amazed even other humans. "The quantum drive systems are performing beyond expectations," he explained to the assembled group. "Our ships can appear and disappear faster than alien sensors can track. We can be in 3 different places in the same second." One of the officers raised her hand. "What about their weapons?" "The Vorthans have plasma cannons that can crack planets." Min-ho smiled. "Their plasma cannons are impressive. Our phase shields make them useless. Their targeting systems are advanced. Our stealth technology makes us invisible. They've been fighting the same way for thousands of years. We've been preparing for them specifically." He activated a holographic projector that showed a sleek human warship. It was nothing like the boxy, simple vessels that aliens had seen before. This ship looked like it had been grown rather than built, with smooth curves and surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. "This is the Yamato-class dreadnought," Min-ho continued. "We have 47 of them ready for deployment. Each one carries enough firepower to level a small moon. Each one can become completely invisible to any known scanning technology." The officers stared at the display in amazement. Many of them had never seen the true scope of humanity's military preparation. Back in the main command center, Park was receiving reports from across human space. Hidden bases were activating. Sleeper agents embedded in alien territories were sending final intelligence reports. Ships that had been disguised as cargo haulers were revealing their true nature as advanced warships. "The aliens are still using the old communication networks," reported a technician. "They don't know we've been listening to everything for decades." Soo-jin nodded. "Their battle plans, their fleet movements, their supply lines. We know it all. They're walking into traps they don't even know exist. Admiral Kim joined them at the main display. The Vorthan Third Fleet will reach Earth's outer defenses in 6 days. They're expecting to find patrol boats and mining platforms. What will they find instead? Park asked. Kim's smile was not pleasant. Captain Yoon Hae-jin's stealth squadron, 12 ships that don't officially exist, armed with weapons that shouldn't be possible. The display changed to show Captain Yoon's vessel, the Retribution. It was smaller than the alien battleships, but looked far more dangerous. Its surface was covered in sensors and weapon ports that seemed to shift and move when viewed directly. Yoon has been testing her equipment against captured alien technology for 2 years, Kim explained. Her ships can phase in and out of normal space. The aliens will think they're fighting ghosts. In the intelligence section, other preparations were underway. Major Bae Young-mi was coordinating with resistance groups on worlds that aliens controlled. These weren't official human colonies, but humans lived there anyway, working as traders and technicians. The aliens never paid attention to our support staff, Bae explained to her team. They thought we were just maintenance workers and cargo handlers. They never noticed that we were mapping their defenses and learning their weaknesses. Her deputy, Colonel Hong Kyung-soo, brought up tactical displays showing alien military bases. Each one was marked with detailed information about weapons, shields, and patrol schedules. Every major alien facility has humans working inside it, Hong reported. When the shooting starts, they'll know exactly where to strike for maximum damage. Meanwhile, in the deepest levels of Luna Base, Dr. An Ji-young was making final preparations for humanity's most terrifying weapons. Her laboratory was filled with devices that looked more like art than military equipment. Crystalline structures, pulsed with contained energy. Metallic spheres rotated in patterns that hurt to watch directly. The stellar manipulation devices are ready, she announced to her small team. We can make any star in the galaxy flicker like a candle, or burn brighter than it should. Or, she paused dramatically, go dark completely. Her assistant, a young man named Lim Jun-ho, looked nervous. Are we really going to threaten entire solar systems? An's expression was serious. The aliens wanted to harvest our people like animals. They wanted to take our worlds and use our bodies for experiments. They made this choice, not us. Back in the command center, Park was receiving the final reports. Every hidden base was operational. Every secret weapon was armed and ready. Every ship in the Ghost Fleet was crewed and waiting for orders. How long have we been preparing for this? Asked a young technician who was new to the classified operations. Su-jin answered. Since the day we first met them. The moment we realized they saw us as primitives to be controlled rather than equals to be respected. Park looked at the displays showing alien fleets moving confidently toward human space. They had no idea what was waiting for them. For 50 years, humanity had played the part of peaceful, limited beings. They had accepted insults and restrictions. They had pretended to be grateful for alien guidance. They think diplomacy is weakness, Park said quietly. They're about to learn what humans are really like when we stop being diplomatic. The countdown had begun. Soon, the galaxy would see humanity's true face. Admiral Zekmor the Conqueror stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Terrible Swift. The massive Vorthan vessel was the pride of their Third Fleet, armed with plasma cannons that could melt mountains. Around him, his crew worked at their stations, with the confidence of a species that had never lost a war. Report, Zekmor ordered in his deep, rumbling voice. We have arrived at the human home system, his weapons officer replied. Scanning for their defensive positions. The bridge screens showed the space around Earth. It looked empty except for a few small satellites and what appeared to be mining platforms. No massive battle stations, no fleets of warships waiting to defend their homeworld. "This is disappointing," Zekmor muttered. "I expected at least some resistance." His tactical officer, a younger Vorthon with ambitious eyes, leaned forward. "Sir, perhaps the humans have already abandoned their system. They may have fled when they learned we were coming." Zekmor considered this. It would make sense. The humans had shown themselves to be cowards by walking away from the peace talks. Running away from a superior force would fit their weak nature. "Begin scanning for their fleet," he ordered. "They must be hiding somewhere in the outer system." What Zekmor didn't know was that Captain Yoon Hai-jin was watching him from less than a kilometer away. Her ship, the Retribution, hung in space like a shadow made solid. Its quantum stealth systems made it completely invisible to Vorthon sensors. "Target acquired," Yoon said quietly to her crew. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and steady hands. Behind her, 23 other human officers worked at stations that hummed with barely contained power. "All Ghost Fleet units, this is Retribution." She spoke into her communication system. "The Vorthons have taken the bait. Begin Phase 1. Around the Vorthon fleet, space began to change. What had appeared empty moments before suddenly filled with human warships. They materialized like ghosts, becoming solid, their sleek hulls reflecting the light of Earth's sun. On the terrible Swift, alarms began screaming. "Contact!" the sensor officer shouted. "Multiple vessels appearing on all sides." Zekmor stared at the displays in shock. Where had these ships come from? How had they gotten so close without being detected? "Open a channel!" Yoon ordered from her invisible position. The communication system on the Vorthon flagship crackled to life. Yoon's voice filled the bridge, calm and clear. "This is Captain Yoon Hai-jin of the United Human Space Vessel Retribution. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from human space." Zekmor's surprise turned to rage. A single human was giving him orders? Him, the conqueror of 17 worlds? "Destroy them all!" he roared. The Vorthon fleet opened fire. Plasma bolts that could vaporize asteroids streaked toward the human ships. For a moment it looked like the humans would be obliterated in the first exchange. Then something impossible happened. The human ships simply weren't there anymore. The plasma bolts passed through empty space. The human vessels had vanished like smoke, leaving the Vorthons firing at nothing. "Where did they go?" Zekmor demanded. His answer came in the form of weapons fire from directly behind his fleet. The human ships had reappeared in the Vorthon rear formation, their weapons already charging. But these weren't the simple projectile weapons the aliens expected humans to use. Beams of pure energy lanced out from the human ships, cutting through. Vorthon armor like it was made of paper. Shields that had protected the aliens for centuries collapsed in seconds. "Impossible!" the Vorthon tactical officer screamed. "Our shields are rated against any known weapon." Commander Seo Ji-hoon led a squadron of human fighters that moved like a school of metal fish. Each fighter was no bigger than a Vorthon shuttle, but they carried weapons that defied everything the aliens thought they knew about physics. "Strike Team Alpha. Target their weapon systems," Seo ordered. His voice was steady despite the chaos around him. The human fighters dove into the Vorthon formation. They moved in patterns that seemed random, but were actually calculated to avoid every shot the aliens fired. Their weapons sent out pulses of energy that didn't just damage Vorthon ships, they disabled them completely. On the terrible Swift, Zekmore watched his fleet being systematically destroyed. Ships that had conquered star systems were being torn apart by vessels a fraction of their size. "How are they moving like that?" he demanded. His science officer, what was left of him after a human weapon had grazed their ship, looked up from his damaged console. "Sir, their technology, it's not following the known laws of physics. They're phasing in and out of normal space." Another human ship materialized directly above the terrible Swift. This one was different from the others. Larger, more heavily armed with weapon systems that made the space around it shimmer with contained energy. "This is Admiral Kim Tae-sung," a new voice announced over the communication system. "Your fleet has 17 minutes to surrender unconditionally." 17 minutes? Zekmore snarled. "It will take us longer than that just to target your ships." 16 minutes and 30 seconds, Kim replied calmly. Across the solar system, similar battles were taking place. The Zephyrian fleet that had been heading for the human colony of New Geneva found themselves facing Admiral Hong Kyung-soo's defense group. The Zephyrians prided themselves on having the most beautiful and graceful ships in the galaxy. They learned that beauty meant nothing against human weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. "Our hulls are made of the finest crystalline compounds in the galaxy," the Zephyrian commander broadcast. "Nothing can penetrate them." Hong's response was to demonstrate a weapon that turned crystalline hulls into glittering dust. 3 Zephyrian Chiakti-E vessels simply ceased to exist, leaving only sparkling clouds where they had been. Meanwhile, the crystalline hive's swarm had encountered Colonel Bei Young-mi's mobile fortress platforms. The hive fought using millions of small crystal ships that moved like insects. They overwhelmed enemies through sheer numbers. But Bei's platforms carried weapons designed specifically for swarm tactics. Each platform generated fields of energy that shattered crystal formations. The hive's million-ship swarm was reduced to floating debris in less than 10 minutes. Back at Earth, the Vorthan Third Fleet was learning what it meant to fight humans who had stopped pretending to be weak. Their proud warships, vessels that had terrorized dozens of species, were being picked apart with surgical precision. "Sir," the Vorthan communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from the 2nd and 5th Squadrons." Zekmore couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Vorthan warriors didn't surrender. They fought to the death with honor." "Refused," he roared. "We are Vorthans. We do not yield to inferior species." Captain Yoon's ship materialized directly in front of the terrible Swift's main viewport. For the first time, Zekmore could see a human warship up close. It was sleek and predatory, covered in weapon systems that seemed to shift and move on their own. "Time's up," Yoon announced. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The human ship fired a single shot, not at the Vorthan vessel's weapons or engines, but at something much more important. The shot passed through the terrible Swift's shields like they weren't there. It struck the ship's main computer core and did something that Vorthan scientists would never fully understand. Every system on the flagship simply stopped working. Life support, weapons, engines, communications, everything went dark. The massive warship became a floating piece of metal, completely helpless. "This is what happens when you mistake our diplomacy for weakness," Yoon said over the communication system. "Your fleet is defeated. Your ships are disabled. Your crews are alive only because we choose to let them live." Throughout the system, the battle was over. 17 minutes, just as Admiral Kim had predicted. The mighty Vorthan Third Fleet, conqueror of worlds, had been completely destroyed by humans they had thought were primitives. But this was only the beginning. Across the galaxy, alien fleets were learning the same terrible lesson. The humans they had dismissed as weak were revealing their true nature, and that nature was terrifying. Fleet Admiral Zhang Wu-jin stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, humanity's newest and largest warship. Through the massive viewports, he could see the Zerion system spread out before him. This was the heart of Galactic Council military power, home to their greatest naval bases and defense platforms. "Hyperspace exit complete," reported Commander Im Dae-yoon from her position at the navigation console. "All fleet units have arrived on schedule." Around the Indomitable, the largest human fleet ever assembled, dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 500 ships materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming in the light of the Zerion star. Each vessel was a masterpiece of human engineering built with technology the galaxy had never seen. "Sir," Im continued, "we're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. The Council has called in everything they have." Wu Jin studied the tactical displays with the patience of a chess master planning his next move. He was an older man, gray-haired and steady, who had spent his entire career preparing for this moment. "How many ships?" he asked calmly. 17 separate fleets," replied the censor officer. "Over 3,000 vessels from 12 different species. They're converging on our position from all directions." The bridge crew exchanged glances. They were outnumbered 6-1. Any normal military force would consider retreat. But these were not normal circumstances, and these were not normal humans. "Good," Wu Jin said with a slight smile. "Let them come to us." On the other side of the system, Council War Leader Thex Khani was coordinating the largest military gathering in galactic history. His command ship, a massive hegemony dreadnought, bristled with weapons and shield generators. "All fleets report. Ready for battle," his aide announced. "The humans have walked into a trap they cannot escape." Thex Khani nodded with satisfaction. He was a veteran of 40 campaigns, and he had never lost a battle. The humans might have surprised a few isolated fleets, but now they faced the combined might of the entire galaxy. "Begin the attack," he ordered. "Surround them completely. I want every human ship destroyed." The Council fleets began their approach, forming a sphere around the human formation. It was a classic tactic designed to prevent any enemy from escaping. They moved with the confidence of species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. What happened next would change the course of galactic history. Captain No Sung-min commanded a group of human destroyers positioned at the front of the binge formation. His ships looked small compared to the massive alien dreadnoughts approaching them, but appearances could be deceiving. "All units, prepare for engagement," No ordered. His voice was calm despite the overwhelming odds they faced. The alien fleets opened fire first. Thousands of weapons discharged at once, filling space with energy beams, plasma bolts, and projectile streams. It was enough firepower to destroy entire planets. The human ships simply vanished. Where did they go? Thex Khani demanded from his command bridge. His sensors showed empty space where the human fleet had been just seconds before. His answer came from behind his own formation. The human ships had reappeared inside the Council's defensive sphere, their weapons already firing. But these weren't the limited attacks the aliens had seen before. These were weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Captain Park Minji led a squadron of human cruisers through the heart of a crystalline hive formation. Her ships moved like liquid metal, flowing around enemy fire while their own weapons, cut through crystal hulls like they were made of glass. "Strike teams focus on their command vessels," she ordered. "Cut the head off the snake." The human fighters were even more impressive. Commanded by pilots like Major Huang So-young, they moved through the alien formations like schools of deadly fish. Each fighter carried weapons that could disable ships 10 times their size. "Marine boarding teams prepare for assault," Huang announced over the communication system. "We're taking their flagships intact." What followed was unlike any battle the galaxy had ever seen. Human Marines, equipped with armor that made them nearly invincible, boarded alien vessels and turned their own weapons against their fleets. Ships that had been fighting humans suddenly began firing on their allies. The aliens tried to adapt, but they were fighting an enemy that seemed to exist outside the normal rules of warfare. Human ships phased in and out of reality. Human weapons ignored shields and armor. Human tactics made no sense according to any military doctrine they knew. Commander Lee Jae-min coordinated the electronic warfare from his position aboard a human stealth ship. His team was infiltrating alien communication networks, spreading confusion and false orders throughout the enemy fleets. "Their command structure is breaking down," he reported to Admiral Jang. "Half their ships don't know who they're supposed to be fighting." But the real terror began when Dr. An Ji-young activated humanity's most fearsome weapons. From hidden positions throughout the system, devices that had been placed months earlier came online. They were small, no bigger than shuttlecraft, but they carried technology that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. "Stellar Manipulation Array is active," An announced from her control station deep within the Indomitable. "We have control of the primary star." The Zerion star began to flicker. Its light grew brighter, then dimmer, then brighter again. To the alien fleets, it looked like their sun was having a seizure. "Impossible," Thex Connie whispered from his command bridge. "How are they affecting an entire star?" The answer came in the form of a communication from Admiral Jang. His face appeared on screens throughout the alien fleets, calm and determined. "This is Fleet Admiral Jang Woo-jin of the United Human Space Force," he announced. "You are witnessing a demonstration of stellar engineering. We can make this star burn brighter. We can make it flicker like a candle. Or," he paused for effect, "we can make it go dark completely." Panic spread through the alien fleets. A species that could control stars was beyond their understanding. It was like fighting gods. But Jang wasn't finished. "Any ship that continues to fire on human vessels will watch their home star suffer the same fate. We know where every one of your worlds is located. We can reach any star in the galaxy." The battle began to turn into a rout. Alien ships that had been confident of victory just minutes before were now trying to escape, but the humans weren't letting them go. Captain Lim Jun-ho led the pursuit squadrons, hunting down fleeing vessels across 3 star systems. His ships moved faster than anything the aliens had ever seen, appearing ahead of retreating fleets, to cut off their escape routes. "This is for every human you plan to harvest," he announced as his weapons disabled another enemy dreadnought. "This is for every world you wanted to steal." Commander Oh Mi-kyung coordinated the capture operations. Human ships were boarding and seizing alien vessels faster than they could be counted. Entire fleets were being taken intact, their crews forced to surrender or face destruction. "We're capturing their technology, their star charts, their military codes," she reported. "Everything they use to control the galaxy is now in our hands." The battle that was supposed to destroy humanity instead became the greatest military disaster in galactic history. 17 alien fleets, the combined might of 12 species, had been shattered by 500 human ships. But this wasn't just a military victory. It was a message to the entire galaxy. The species that had dismissed humans as primitives were learning what happened when they pushed a peaceful race too far. On his command bridge, Thexkani stared at the tactical displays, showing his forces being systematically destroyed. Half his ships were captured, a quarter were destroyed, and the rest were fleeing in panic. "How?" he whispered. "How did we lose to such a small force?" The answer came from one of his surviving officers. "Sir, they weren't fighting to win territory or resources. They were fighting to send a message. And that message is clear. Never threaten humanity again." As the last alien ships fled the system, Admiral Jang looked out at the wreckage of what had once been the galaxy's greatest military force. The hunt was over. Now came the reckoning. 6 months had passed since Ambassador Kang Dae-ho walked out of the Galactic Council chambers. Now he was walking back through those same massive doors, but everything had changed. This time, he was not alone. General Song Hye-jin walked on his right side, her military uniform decorated with medals from battles that had reshaped the galaxy. Admiral Shin Dong-wook was on his left, carrying a data pad that contained the surrender documents of 7 alien species. Behind them, 20 human. Marines in powered armor provided an escort that no one would dare challenge. The council chambers looked different now. Half the elevated tables were empty, their former occupants either dead, captured, or hiding on their homeworlds. The remaining alien delegates sat in chairs positioned at the same level as the human table. The days of looking down on humanity were over. Acting Council Speaker Meldor waited nervously at the center podium. He was a syndicate representative, chosen only because he had been smart enough to surrender early in the war. His predecessor, Veltar the Wise, was currently imprisoned on a human prison station, learning what it felt like to be studied by a superior species. The human delegation is recognized, Meldor announced, his voice shaking slightly through the translator system. Dae-ho took his seat at what was now the primary table in the chamber. The other species had learned to wait for humans to speak first. Around the room, alien delegates, who had once been arrogant masters of the galaxy, now looked like frightened children. "Thank you," Dae-ho said politely. His tone was the same diplomatic voice he had used 6 months ago, but now it carried the weight of absolute power behind it. "I believe we have some business to conclude." General Song stepped forward, her boots clicking on the polished floor. She was a small woman, but every alien in the room had heard stories of her tactical brilliance during the siege of Vorthon Prime. "The terms of surrender have been prepared," she announced. "All remaining council species will now hear the conditions for their continued existence." She activated a holographic display that filled the air above the chamber. The terms appeared in 17 different languages, though most of the aliens already knew what they would say. "Complete and immediate demilitarization of all former council fleets," Song read. "All military vessels will be turned over to human authorities for disposal or conversion to civilian use. No species may maintain military forces larger than local police units." The few remaining alien delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The hegemony representative, a creature that looked like a walking tree, made a sound that the translator turned into a protest. "Our worlds need protection from pirates and raiders. it complained. Admiral Shin looked up from his datapad. Human. Patrol fleets will provide security for all civilized worlds. Those who cooperate with human authority will receive full protection. Those who don't... He let the sentence hang unfinished. Song continued reading. Reparations for the cost of human military operations will be paid over the next 50 years. This includes the replacement value of all destroyed human property, compensation for military expenses, and damages for the attempted genocide of human colonies. The numbers that appeared on the display made several aliens gasp. The total amount was larger than the combined economic output of most species. These figures are impossible, protested the Zephyrian delegate, Lady Azure. She looked much different now, her once perfect appearance marred by stress and defeat. Our economies cannot support such payments. Then you will work harder, replied Professor Kang Subin as she stepped forward. She was humanity's new director of Galactic Affairs, a position that had not existed before the war. Now she was essentially the ruler of known space. Territorial adjustments will be made to ensure galactic stability, Subin continued. The Xerion system and all former Council military bases now belong to humanity. Former Council worlds in strategic locations will become human protectorates. Population transfers will be arranged as necessary. The word transfers sent a chill through the remaining aliens. They had used similar language when demanding human colonies. Now they understood what it felt like to be on the receiving end. What about our sovereignty? Asked the crystalline hive representative, its voice like breaking glass. Our right to self-determination? Deho smiled, and the expression was not pleasant. You forfeited those rights when you demanded genetic samples from 1 million humans. When you planned to clear our colonies for your mining operations. When you treated us like animals to be harvested. He stood up slowly, his movements deliberate and controlled. You had your chance for peaceful coexistence. You chose war instead. Now you live with the consequences. Major Kim Jae-won, the human officer in charge of occupation forces, brought up new displays showing the current state of former Council worlds. Human flags flew over alien capitals. Human administrators managed alien governments. Human teachers were already working to educate alien children about their new place in the galaxy. Educational reforms will ensure that future generations understand the importance of respecting human authority, Kim announced. All alien children will learn human history and the consequences of aggressive behavior toward peaceful species. The few remaining council members looked at each other desperately. They had come to these chambers hoping for mercy, perhaps even some form of negotiated settlement. Instead, they were seeing the complete restructuring of galactic civilization. These terms are harsh, Meldor said quietly. Perhaps some accommodation could be reached? No, Deho interrupted firmly. These terms are generous. 6 months ago, you demanded that we surrender our fleets, give up our colonies, and submit our people for experimentation. We refused, and you called us primitives. He walked closer to the alien delegates, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber. We offered you peace, cooperation, and mutual prosperity. You responded with threats and demands. You made it clear that you saw us as inferiors to be dominated. General Song pulled up tactical displays showing the current deployment of human forces. Every former Council world was marked with human bases. Every trade route was patrolled by human ships. Every communication network was monitored by human intelligence. The galaxy is now under human protection, she announced. Species that accept human guidance will prosper. Those that resist will be removed. The phrase removed needed no translation. Everyone in the chamber understood what it meant. Professor, Kang brought up the final section of the surrender terms. Permanent human oversight of all interstellar law and commerce. The Galactic Council is dissolved. In its place, the Human Protectorate will govern all civilized worlds. She looked around the chamber at the defeated alien delegates. You will have representation in the new government, proportional to your species' contribution to galactic peace and stability. Those contributions will be measured by human standards. The signing ceremony was brief and formal. One by one, the remaining alien species accepted the terms that would govern the rest of their existence. They had no choice. Their fleets were destroyed, their worlds occupied, their governments controlled by human administrators. As the last signature was recorded, Daeho prepared to leave the chamber where this had all begun. At the doors, he paused and looked back at the defeated aliens. You know, he said conversationally, we really did try to warn you. We offered you partnership instead of conquest. We wanted to work together, to build something better for all of us. His smile was sad rather than triumphant. What we didn't tell you was what humans are like when peaceful solutions are no longer possible. You assumed that our diplomacy meant we were weak. You thought our offers of cooperation meant we were desperate. He gestured to the human marines, the occupied alien worlds displayed on the screens, and the surrender documents that would reshape galactic civilization. You were wrong. As the doors closed behind the human delegation, the remaining aliens sat in silence. Outside, human colony ships were already launching toward their former worlds. The galaxy belonged to humanity now, not through conquest, but through the simple act of defending themselves when attacked. The age of human dominance had begun, all because a council of alien species had made the fatal mistake of confusing mercy with weakness. They had learned too late that the most dangerous enemies are those who prefer peace but are fully prepared for war. The galaxy would never make that mistake again.